Vance Jones.
Thanks, sir. Wow. Now I do know I'm old. You know, that's when they say you're a legend, that means you're old. And I'll be honest with you, of course, I live in Balmoreah part-time. Explain that. I just finished my 46th year in public school coaching. 23 in 11-man and 23 in 6-man. So I retired from Garden City in the spring of 2012, and I kind of, I didn't really want to, but we had some issues, and if you're a head coach, you're going to get in these before, but at some point in your time, you're going to have the superintendent come up and say, we want to go a different direction. Here in 2009, we were state champs D1. 2010, we were state champs in D1. In 2011, we were 5-5. It didn't matter that all those kids graduated. How that goes. So what they want to know, want to go a different direction, and so I thought, okay, I'll retire. I wasn't really ready to retire, and so we have my wife and I have 4.8 acres on the Llano River, south of London, Texas. If any of you know where that is. And so we were there for about 3 months, and after the 4th of July, I started getting calls from superintendents. Hey, would you be interested in coming back? And you kind of get intrigued. And my daughter, she's a big fan. She said, Dad, you're not ready to retire. You need to check some of these out. So Zephyr really wanted me to come over there, and I went. I don't know if you, as a coach, you all have feelings when you go to places, and oh, I'll never go here, or man, I'd love to be here. Well, they had all these seniors coming back, and my wife and I drove over, and we walked around the school and visited a little bit. As we were leaving, I looked at her, and she looked at me, and she said, I said, yeah, you just had that feeling. This was not where we needed to be. Of course, I knew what that feeling was coming from. The good Lord, He's going to direct you where you need to be. Whether you believe it or not, He will. And so we went back, and I said, well, I'll get used to fishing every day. And the superintendent from Balmoreah called. Now, how many of you know where Balmoreah, Texas is? There's a few. It's in far west Texas. Okay? It's about 2 hours southwest of Odessa, for those of you that don't know. We're right in the foothills of the Davis Mountains. We do have a San Salmon Springs, which is right there coming out of the mountains, and there's a big swimming pool, open swimming pool that you can go swimming in with the fishes. But it's a neat place. It's really a neat place, but it is pretty isolated. We've had 46 kids in high school this last year, so we don't have many kids. 99.9% Hispanic, and great kids. And the families are very supportive of their kids. And Jeremy actually caught me, and this is something that I've done for a good while now. When school's out, and you all know this, imagine 90% of you or 95% of your kids, they start 2-a-days in August. They play football. They all go to basketball. They all go to track, tennis, or whatever, right? They're doing everything. And I found out several years ago, June, I tell my kids at the end of school, June is yours. Go be kids. They need a break. You need a break. I tell them, if you want to come lift, that's great, because we have a guy that's going to be up there that has a weight room open. If you want to ride bicycle, ride a bicycle. If you want to, go to summer track, that's great. But be kids. So many people get so involved in year-round this and year-round that kids forget how to be kids. And so that's something I've done, and it's been pretty successful. I've been doing it a while now. But literally, when Jeremy called me, I was sitting on the banks in my chair catching perch to bait my drop lines for the catfish. When he called, and I said, well, Jeremy, I'm really not a very good speaker, and I don't feel like I am, but I do love this game, and if I can give anything that helps a coach, a young coach, or any coach, then I feel like good Lord's got me there for something. Okay, and like Jeremy said, I feel like, over the years we've influenced a lot of young men, and that's something we all need to know and realize is how research has validated the coach. We're the single most influential authoritative figure in adolescence today. When you think about that, that's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. Even when I was in high school, and I played six-man football in high school in Marathon, Texas, back in the 60s. The coach was important in my life, but he wasn't the main, your dad, your granddad. You got a lot of important people in your life. But today, our youth, there's many of them don't have a male figure in their life except the coach. And that's something we need to all realize and don't take for granted. Realize that your actions are speaking a lot louder than you do sometimes. So be a positive influence on that young man's life, and the rewards are endless. Jeremy told me I was supposed to speak on building a program from the ground up. That's pretty broad. And I got to thinking about it, and the coach is where you have to start. You have to start with yourself. It's one thing to play, to go to college and get all the right classes and get the degree which will allow you to be a coach. But you have to also realize the responsibility you have as a coach. And don't take it for granted. Really know what you have to do. As a coach, you've got to be a motivator. You've got to give those kids confidence. You've got to deal with their emotions. And you've got to create team cohesiveness. Those are some big orders when you're developing a team. Especially in this day and age, as a motivator, kids are not prepared for a long season. Now they want what? They want instant gratification, don't they? And that's one thing I think coaches fail to realize sometimes is you've got to develop those kids into the mindset that this isn't going to be 2 or 3 weeks and go do something else. And we're still gonna have fun, And he's right. He hit it on the nail. He hit the nail on the head. You've got to prepare them, and that's something that we do, or we try to do, is we divide our season into 4 sections, 4 phases. Okay? You've got your 2-a-days and your first 2 scrimmages. That's phase 1 for us. That is the most important phase for our season, because that's when you build your fundamentals. And fundamentals is the key. No matter what offense you run, what defense you run, you've got to be fundamentally sound. And before you can start teaching your kids how to be fundamentally sound, you've got to teach your coaches. And most of y'all are all in situations where there's at least 2, 3, or 4 of you that are coaching, right? I hope. When I started, I was the coach. When I first coached 6-man, I was the coach. But things weren't quite as advanced technologically as they are today. And I'll have to apologize on that regard, because I'm old school, and I don't have any PowerPoints, and I don't have any handouts, because like I said, I was literally on the river when Jeremy called me, so what you get is what you get today. And, but if any of you want film or want my playbook, send me a message and I'll get it to you. I'm one of these that, you know, I'll share and give anything I can to anybody, you know. And if I pay you down the road, that's fine. You don't know when I'm gonna run that place, so good luck. A few things you're gonna have to be able to defend. I learned that from Terry over there too. But you've got to get those kids ready for the long haul. And after phase 1, we go into phase 2, which is our pre-district schedule. And that's, you know, we set everything up. Okay, we got through this, no injuries, we learned, we got fundamentally sound. Then we get through our season, regular season. If you make it through without injuries, man, you're doing a good job. God's bless you. And then you go into the third phase, which is your district schedule. And this it's the most important, really, because if you're not successful there and win, you're not going to have that fourth phase. So it's really important that you stress, you know, to your kids beforehand. You've got the phases here. This isn't going to be a quick deal. You know, if you want to get somewhere, you've got to work at it. And then if you're fortunate enough to get past that third phase, then you go into the playoffs, and that's phase 4. And everybody here wants to play December football. You know, that means you've got there. And I remember when I went to Balmoreah, fall of 2012, I inherited assistant coaches, and I knew them all. One I had coached against when I coached at Sanderson. He was in school at Balmoreah. The other two one of them had coached against me at Serra Blanca when I was at Sanderson. And the other one had coached against me at Balmoreah when I was at Sanderson. So I knew the coaches, and in fact, Coach Garcia, I've known him. He's from Marathon, where I'm from, and I've known him since he was a little bitty too. So I was in an advantage there is that I knew my assistants, okay? But I also was in a situation where Balmoreah, since the 60s when I was in high school, and in the 80s, or the 90s when I was coaching at Sanderson and we were playing them, and even up until that time, they ran the T on offense and the diamond spread. That's all they ever did. And as a coach against them, you knew what they were going to do. Well, when I go, I knew immediately I was going to have to coach the coaches, teach the coaches, because they didn't know how to run our offense. They'd run mainly a 4-2 defense. And that's the first thing you've got to do with the staff is you've got to make sure you coach and teach your coaches. You know, don't be a head coach that's a director, you know, so you do this, this, and this, and then, you know, hope it gets done. You've got to set them down and teach. You know, and I found that out at Balmoreah. Great coaches, but they had been used to doing things that I wasn't used to doing. You know, and I told them, you know, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and they're kind of looking like me, like, okay. And that first practice, this is something I'm going to tell you also. Never get on to your coaches. Never berate them. Never try to get them to change in front of the team. You know what I mean? If you have a problem with the coach or with what they're doing, get them inside after the kids are gone, sit down and say, okay, guys. And I'm not a hollerer, and I don't yell and scream at coaches or anything like that. I'll just sit down and say, this is what we got to do. You know, for instance, we start out every practice with our team flex. We do the stretching drills and running drills. And I always lead that. That's just something I do. Well, I expect my assistant coaches to be encouraging, showing kids that can't do something, especially early, because we did drills they hadn't even ever done in their lives before. You know, and I had intentionally not told the coaches this because I want to see how they react. You know, and here I am, we're going through all of our warm-up, and they're all standing back there watching and just watching and talking, you know. It just goes all over me. You know, but I kept my cool. And we got through practice, and then we sat down and we had a discussion. I said, guys, you know what you're supposed to be doing. Visiting is not part of it. You have a job to do. I don't want assistant coaches that are gophers. You know what I mean? I want guys that are out there coaching. And I knew from that point on, and they knew what to expect. So we spent a week, you know, after the kids were gone, sitting down and going through each one of their positions. And we'd already touched on it before we started. But I realized I had to get in more depth. You know, like Coach Mata, who's my line coach, we had to work on his footwork, stance, little things. You, as I took, or you as a head coach may take for granted that the other coach knows how to do. He may not. So you need to take and coach your coaches in what you want them to do. And then, you know, I run unbalanced formation. I'm not a spread guy. We'll get in some shotgun, but we don't run a spread. We run it tight, and we're unbalanced with a wing back or a full back. And I'm not in a true J. My running back is in, all right, his landmark is his left foot is on the center's right foot. That's his landmark. And then he's as deep as he needs to be for his speed. You know, you can't say he's 4 yards from the line of scrimmage, because you may have one back that's there real quick, and the next one may not get there that quick. So if you'll notice in our players, I may have a back that's 5, 6 yards deep. Next time there's a back in there, he may not be but 4 yards deep. You know right quick what's the fast one's back there further. Okay? So you have to, it's hard to say you're going to be here, here, here. You've got to adjust that according to the speed of your players. You know, and this is the main thing that I think as a coach you've got to do is you've got to coach your coaches first, and then you have to teach your kids. In that first week, you know, we only have 12 running plays in our offense, period. You know, we take probably 4 plays a day that first week. Even though that first year it was easy because they didn't know anything. I mean, we had to start from scratch. We'll take 4 plays, and my line coach takes the line, and that's another thing. Don't just get out there and run plays. You got to break it down. We break down into individual groups. For Coach Garcia, he had the fullbacks and the ends. I had the quarterbacks and the running backs. Coach Mata, the center and the guard. And we go through those 4 plays. They have to teach them what they're supposed to do on those 4 plays that day. That's what we did. We did that every day until we got all of our offense in. Now, I say we have 12 plays. We run a base formation, but out of that base formation, we can get into a lot of different formations, but we still only run the same play. And I keep it pretty simple, and even though I know you have to adjust to your personnel, I still believe if you teach fundamentals, you can teach kids how to block. We're not very big, but we do a pretty good job blocking on the line. You know, Richland kind of handled us a little bit second half, but we still made a game out of it. Till the third quarter, we couldn't score. But there's some things that you've got to do to make yourself better, and fundamentals is the key. You know, everybody has to know his job and pay attention to his job. Confidence. You've got to teach your kids confidence. You know, that's something you gain all the time. You know, you can get their confidence built up and then play somebody and they have a bad game, get beat, now you've got to reteach their confidence. And that's hard to do because you look at today's society, there's an obsession with publicizing bad things, failure. How many articles do you see about failure compared to what people did right? You don't see the good stuff, do you? It's all the negative stuff. So you really have to work on their confidence, okay? And emotions, you've got to know how to harness that inner self, that emotion, to a positive degree, and not let that passion get away from you. You know, I'm not a rah-rah guy with my athletes. You know, we come in for the game and people watch us, and I've had parents, they need to show a little excitement. No, they don't. I don't want to burn them up energy now. You know, they're confident in what we're doing. They're relaxed. They're focused on what we're fixing to do. I don't want them out there rah-rah and jumping up and down an hour before the game. You know, they've got to learn how to handle that emotion. They're already keyed up enough as it is because it's game day, right? So you don't have to do much in that respect. If it wasn't important to them, they would not be there. So you don't have to worry about that. And then the last thing is your team cohesion. And that to me is the biggest thing as a coach you have to challenge today, is a challenge to you. Because we are a what society now? Me. Me. It's all about me. And you've got to teach these kids that if we're going to be successful, it's we. And I know it's a necessity that we have to put up with, but I hate all district, I hate all region, I hate all state. I like it in six-man in public schools because we get to decide that, not the newspaper. But still, these are the things that you've got to do to be successful as a head football coach. And this is kind of the, helping on the groundwork of your program. You've got to know what you want to do and how you want to do it. You've got to be organized. You've got to be structured. And you've got to be consistent. Okay? Every day, my players come to the dressing room. We have a little board. I've got the schedule, the day's schedule, right there. Time, what we're doing. And you think, oh, they've done everything. You'd be surprised. That's the first thing they look at when they get out. And you can see them, oh man, we're doing that today. Or, oh, wow, we're going to do this today. They know what's going on. So let them know. And then once you do that, stick with it. Follow through. Whatever you're going to do that day, follow through with it. Structure. I'm a very old school discipline. We're going to do, and I learned this a few years ago. We were having a hard time defensively, and I had a coach mention this, and I got to thinking about it. When you have your practices, what do you always do first as coaches? If you're in team practice, you always do offense, don't you? Most of you probably do. You do offense, and then you might have a little 30-minute period for defense. Well, I guarantee you in six-man that better change if you want to be successful. Our first thing after we do team takeoff, or our team flex, and our passing drills, is we go to group defense. Actually, we do tactical drills first. We do a lot of tactical drills, and like the ones they were talking about earlier, We never tackle each other, it's always the dummies. We have all the drills where rapping and Gatorading, Gator rolling, you know, on the dummies. We do that, and I guarantee you, since we've been doing that, our tackling's gotten better. It's not where it needs to be, but it has gotten better. Then we go to group defense, and we work in groups on the individual skills they've got to have. And then we'll go to team defense. But we're structured on that every day. We do defense first. Those kids need to understand it's important that you play good defense if you're going to be successful. And then we have the offense, same thing, individual, group, team. And we do that every day. That's just a structured practice for us. Okay, and we're always consistent. If we're working on 31 trap, 31 C screen, 34 wham, 35 pitch, that's what we're doing today. We're not gonna do and add something else. We're gonna stay with that right there. I'm very, how would I say this? I want a balanced offense. Again, I grew up in the era of the wishbone, the split back there. I like option football, and so I still have it in our playbook, you know. And I think we're successful, and mainly I think we're successful because of our gap control blocking, zone blocking. You know, we work a lot on block. And we have a simple little saying that our players, they all know, gap man, none near backer. And they learn that real quick. Depending on where the play is, the first responsibility is the gap. There's nobody in the gap man. Nobody in the gap or man near backer. But that's a little phrase that we use it. I guarantee it, you know, you can, in a game, you see somebody miss a block. I said, what happened? He said, I didn't go to the linebacker coach. I didn't get to near backer. I said, there wasn't anybody in the gap, was there? No, sir. You know, so there's some things that you can do that help make them understand what's going on, and it's pretty simple and pretty comprehensive. Just gap man, none near backer. And that'll help them. You know, of course, when we run trap, you gotta have a trapper and all that good stuff. And that's pretty much just a nutshell of how to get started. You can go into all the different offenses. I think most of you have heard me before, know what I do offensively. We're gonna run an unbalanced line, power, we're gonna run speed option, and we're gonna pass. Play action passes. I know Phil doesn't like play action passes, and that's great. But it works for me because we run the ball pretty successfully, and that's our base. And I had no really true drop back passes in my scheme. You know. And I heard some other things a while ago on the flow and away. We run 35 pitch, which is a weak side sweep. Our backside end, tight end, he's running a post route. He's not going down blocking. He's running a post route. And our running back has the option. His first thing is he's reading what's going on, where the blocking is, where he's going. He's also seeing if that guy's covered. If there's nowhere to run, he's going to go to that end. And that's the same thing on our 36 counter, which is the weak side, strong side sweep. The Z-back, our fullback, he's running a post route. And here we go. We're running 36 counter, and we've got the blocking, we're going. If he sees that they're stringing it or something, he automatically looks. And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, that guy's going to be open. And what it does cause, it causes your defenses, after they've seen you do this, all of a sudden, they're not going to have as quick a support from the secondary.
By the way, I do believe in that. That's pitch and pass.
Oh yeah, I know. I was thinking that when you said that earlier. You know, and I love that. And we came up with something this year, getting ready for Richland Springs in the state game. And we spend time on it. But punting, how many of you punt? How often do you punt? Not very often. Okay? But there is a time that you have to, right? I know we didn't prepare very well early, and we played Garden City, and we ended up having to punt and snapped it over the, and they scored and make it a 10-point game. But when we punt, it looks just like our offense. The quarterback, all he does is spread his legs a little bit and doesn't get underneath. When we direct it, snap it to the running back, we just sidestep and send a spinner. And I guarantee it's effective. Well, we did that against Richland, only we did that, but instead of doing this, he just dropped back. And our quarterback, everybody, we have our two ends going down to cover, centering the guard blocking, and our quarterback, after the snap, he went right up the middle. And we had two big first downs against them in the second half. Direct snapping it to the running back, passing it back to the quarterback. So there, there's always a place to add something, in a big game. But on the whole, especially if you're playing a team that you know they're better than you are, probably, the one thing you don't want to do is add a bunch of plays and add a bunch of formation. Stick with what got you there. And just work on execution and running them correctly. And you'll be surprised how many times those simple plays will be just as effective as if you try to add something new. Because it's too late at that point to try to add something new. Run with what got you there. Okay? And, defensively, just have to take them out of tackle. Of course, it helps you have a little speed. And I'll be real honest with you, I'm excited. I am going to be coaching again next year. I'm not retiring yet. We had 17 players listed last year. One senior, he didn't start. So I'm pretty excited. I have all my starters back. And I feel like if we can stay healthy, we've got a really reasonable chance to make it back to the state game, hopefully. I would like to say one other thing, a little plug here. I think, are any of you, or I'm sure some of you are familiar with Dr. Jeff Dukes and his 3-dimensional pyramid of coaching success. If you're not, I really highly recommend that you get this program. It's a web-based curriculum, and it's brought to you by the FCA, and it's available at www.fcacoachesacademy.com. But it talks about the first dimension, which is fundamentals, physical aspects of it, the second dimension, which is psychological, or the mind, and the third dimension is heart or holism. But I really highly recommend that if you have a chance to get that program, that you look it up. I'm not technically advanced. I'm old school, and so I don't use it, but one of my coaches is good at that, and he brought it up, and so we went through that, and it's very good, and I recommend it to all of you to get an opportunity to get that. That's about all I've got, unless any of you want any extras or O's or want to ask any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Nada? Thank you.
All right, we'll take about a 10-minute break.